Talk to me about the earpiece.
Mm. Well, before the earpiece, we used to have to look at the timekeeper. Usually it was Mark Yaton,
Hmm.
to get, he would give us the hand signals for times, like, and just flash him up there and it was time to go home. He'd put the pencil in his mouth, that sort of stuff. And if he was standing up with the pencil in his mouth, it means go home now.
Right.
It's like you're running out of time. But then we got the IFBs, the earpieces, which were both a blessing and a curse
Right.
because because yes, it's great. They give you the times, you communicate the times of the talent, but a lot of times the agents would now find it, oh, now we could communicate. Well, tell the guys to do this and tell the guys to do that, and they're constantly going, and you're okay. Let me try and pass these messages along, but you can't. Like I said, you can't just walk up there and go, okay, they said they want you to do this. You know what I
Sure.
mean? You got
Yeah.
to find the right spots to do that. So that's why I say it's both a blessing and a curse. It was easy for us, but now they have. I see that they have it. It's a two-way thing where now they can talk back.
Right.
So when you can communicate with Gorilla as opposed to them being the only ones to communicate. So I'm wondering nowadays if any of the rest, when they're yakking too much, go, all right, that's enough. I can't stop it.
Right. Yeah. Any specific instructions you can remember that Vince said, have so and so do this or not do this? Anything like stand out in your mind?
uh, I'm trying to think from Vince because Vince wasn't the one who usually talked to us. It
Okay.
was either Bruce Pritchard or mostly Gerald Briscoe.
Okay.
Uh, so Mr. Briscoe was the one we used to hear from a lot. Vince would rarely, if ever, get on that darn thing, and because he'd be the guy, tell him to, God damn it, tell him to, and so he'd always
Right.
be screaming to somebody else to pass the message. Um, the weirdest thing we ever got was some videos surfaced recently, um, dark matches that we used to do before tapings
Yeah.
or live TVs,
I've been watching those.
where all of a sudden, you know, you'd hear in your earpiece, like I remember Charles got it, I got it, Brian Hebner got it. They'd mess with us like, Charles, do a cartwheel into the finish and count the
Right.
finish. So Charles would do a cartwheel and count one, two, three, and they would, Jimmy, do a front roll into the finish and something like this. And they get us to, hey, start doing jumping jacks. And you're going, what the jumping jacks? Like in the middle of a match. So these guys are having a match, you're doing jumping jacks, and they're like, what the what's going on? You know what I
Right.
mean? So
Yeah.
yeah, it was just it's the and amuse ourselves.
Sure.
Of course, you'd never see that on TV, but but it was fun. What the heck?
Any botched finishes? Any three counts that weren't supposed to happen?
Oh, they've happened, especially during an era when the boss told us, "Look, if it's not on you. If the talent doesn't kick out in time, you count three. If they don't make it back into the ring before the 10 count to break the count or whatever, you count 10. You count them out. I don't care." He says, if you treat it like a shoot, you won't get in trouble. I do remember one time, I want to say it was Shelton Benjamin versus Edge. I was refereeing that match. And for some reason, I had a brain cramp. It happens to everybody, but Shelton was going over, but I didn't remember what the exact finish was. So he covered Edge, and I counted one, two, and as I'm coming down for three, I'm seeing that he's not kicking out, but I'm thinking that's not the finish. So what I did was I pulled up on it just a brief second, and then I grabbed my hand, like I had injured my hand or some form of fashion. And I could see Edge looking up at me like that was the finish. I go, and I was like, oh shit. Okay. He says, okay, we'll do it again. We'll do something else. And I'm like, okay. He says, so we get to the back, and I told Edge what happened. I just said, I'm sorry, man. But then the agent came out. Michael Hayes was the agent. He said, Jimmy, why didn't you count three on that? I said, I don't know, Michael. Something happened in my hand. I felt the shooting pain go up through my wrists and stuff like that. He said, oh, goddamn, go get that looked at. So I'm like, oh,
That's great.
maybe I should have told the truth, but hey, he bought it. So,
Yeah. Where can people find you, Jimmy?
well, you can find me on, of course, social media. I still call it Twitter at Jimmy Korderas, on Instagram at Real Jimmy Korderas. I do a podcast weekly with some other referees and former referees, Brian Hebner and Daniel Spencer, who's currently the head referee at TNA, called Reffing It Up. And I got to give a shout out to RJ, who's our producer, because if it wasn't for him, we'd be clueless. But anyways, what could we do? We only know how to count to three. And also here in Canada, I do a radio show on TSN Radio and iHeartRadio with Donnie De Silva, who's a well-known wrestling personality here in Canada, called Huge Pop Radio. And, we do a weekly radio show. It's an hour long on linear radio, but the website, hugepopradio.com, you can catch the full version because we do interviews with current and past superstars. And you can only play, because it is radio, you can only play like a 12-minute clip from it. And a lot of times these interviews will be an hour and a bit. And wrote a book a little while back called The Three Count: My Life in Stripes as a WWE referee. I think it's still available out there on Amazon or wherever you find books. And